welcome to my channel. Now today I've actually lost the first bit of my video, so I'm re-recording it, so you'll see that I've actually finished what I was doing there, but that bit's all done, don't worry about that. I've got all the actual painting in. It was just me saying hello and explaining what I was going to be doing really. So the reason that I've chosen to do Brusho today was I got this a few weeks back, you'll probably remember, and so far I've used it with Inktense and ink and watercolour. And I thought today we'd have a go see how the Brusho was on this mixed media paper, and it's absolutely fine. I mean, one thing I would say is I do get my masking tape and just pop it around the edge there. I used quite a bit of water in this little tangerine and it's done absolutely fine. Now I'll just show you how I keep my Brushos. So they're all in a tub like this. You need to keep everything really clean when you're using Brushos. So keeping them contained in here means that I've not got powder going on my table and on my board, so that when I come to do a watercolour it's very easy, if you've got little bits of Brusho powder, to get it on your board and then drag it across your painting when you're doing your watercolours. So just be mindful of that and really careful with where you've got your watercolours. So you'll see I keep them in here and I have written on the top what the colour is, so I don't have to lift them out to see what the colour is. And I've also got these pins. When I go away doing workshops and I've got to take them in the car, it stops them all coming out if you've got those little pins in, and they're actually colour coordinated as well. Okay, so that was just a little bit of the video that I lost, telling you about doing the Brushos. So now we'll carry on with the bit that I haven't lost. Okay, so I thought we would do, as it was December, we would do a tangerine, one thing that can remind us a little bit of the time of year and Christmas, but I just wanted to do something very simple. So I'm just going to pop that in front of me and get a pencil, and I'm going to do it bigger than it actually is. Always good to do things big. And I'm seeing quite a bit of the top of it because of the angle. I'm stood up. The bench that I'm working on is quite high, a bit like your kitchen worktop sort of height. And I'm standing to work, so I'm seeing the top of the tangerine and that little where the stalk should have been there. So just get your arm really moving when you're doing your drawing. And look at the way the shadows are coming around that side. So look at where the shadows are lying and where the light direction's coming from. Okay, but I'm not going to do lots of pencil work on that. So we need to think about the colours, and it's got quite a lot of light on it, but I'm just thinking what we're going to use for the shadows. So to set off with, I'm going to start with a yellow before we put more orangey colours on. I'm going to use a yellow as a base, and I'm going to go for the Gamboge to have it really nice and bright. So I've just tipped a little bit of the Gamboge Brusho out of the pot. I'm going to mix it with a touch of water, and actually this is quite orangey anyway. It's lovely and bright, but it's quite an orangey yellow, a warm yellow. I'm just going to more or less cover the whole shape with that. But again, as you're moving your brush, move it in the direction that the object's going, and get some nice sweeping curves. And it gives you a feel for the shape of the fruit as you go along. Following some of those pencil lines as well. Might as well just go over the whole thing. So I'm just thinking now, I'm not sure how we're going to do those they're sort of covered in little dots, aren't they? We'll have to do those at the end, I think. Okay, so the next colour I'm going to put on, I'm going to get some of that yellow, lemon yellow, and put that where there's a few highlights. So down here, so just look now where the light is. Can you see I've not mixed that completely in the water, so I've got one or two little bits of Brusho just in there, because if you look, I've not put as much water in that one, and I've not mixed it the same. So I'm actually picking up 1 or 2 little bits with my brush, and that's working quite well because it's making it look like those little bits of indentations that the fruit's got there. So I didn't let the first layer dry, I'm just working wet on wet and keeping going. I'm not going to stop and allow things to dry. And because it's obviously quite a fresh one, it's got a little touch of green, so I don't want to put lots of green in, and I don't want to put a very bright green in, so I've gone for the leaf green there. Another nice one you could use is olive or moss. I wouldn't use there's a very bright one, I can't think what it's called, emerald green. I wouldn't use the emerald green. So it's just a touch of, I mean, it is still quite bright compared to what you would have in probably your watercolours. And it's not all over, it's just in a couple of places, like I say, where it's not just as ripe. Now I'm just going to put some more of that gamboge in there, and again I'm not going to mix it too much. I'm just going to see if we can get a similar effect as we did with the yellow. Just leaving 1 or 2 bits not quite as dissolved. You can start and build up a bit of detail, some of the shape here, the way it's going into the centre there. And a lot of that's made with your actual shadows and where these little indentations are. So now for a shadow colour, I'm going to use a violet, I think. If I can find one moment. But I'm only going to use a tiny touch. And look carefully where the shadow is coming. So we've got the light coming through the window down this side, so under here is quite in shade. So I think that violet's working okay for a shadow, and the colours are mixing quite nicely on the paper there. And while we've got that little bit made up, we'll put some shadows on the table as well, because as you can see where those, I did actually mark those shadows in with the pencil before. You see how I'm just going to let that colour run in. It's quite good to sort of try and reflect a bit of that colour, so make sure you touch that and let some of that gamboge and the other colours mix in with your shadow that's on the table as well. So you can see you've got a couple of different light sources there. Actually not got that one quite right, but I don't think matters too much. And if I look again, it needs to be a lot darker, so let's get some more of that purple and make it slightly stronger underneath. So just a case of building up, and it's especially going to be dark where the two shadows overlap as well. And here is absolutely the darkest area, so half close your eyes and have a look where you can see the darkest areas on the actual fruit as well. and just start and put a little bit more detail in there. There's a bit of a blemish and some of these bits of shapes as well. I'm just going to, with a damp brush, I'm just going to let that bleed in a little bit more. Get a softer edge on there. It's drying quite quickly. I've got it quite warm in here because it's very cold outside. Okay, so I think I need to get more of the sort of effect of those little dimples now. I'll show you what I mean, just these, you know, all these little bits of spots. And we need some contrast, so I'm going to go with a lemon for some of them. I'm hoping it's still damp enough for it to make an effect. If you're worried about it going where you don't want it to go, I quite often just go like this with my hand, or I get a piece of card. Okay, so it's actually quite dry in the middle here, so it's not moving a lot, which is good because we don't want it to move too much. We just want to use it as little sort of spots. So I think that's enough of the lemon. And I'll put a little bit of the Gamboge on as well. Oops. So this is what happens, it comes out too quick sometimes, but it actually doesn't matter because if you look at this, can you see there's a blemish there and there's some blemishes here. Some of these bits here could be where those are. And I'm just going to get some of the purple if I can find it again. I don't think I'll introduce any more colours now, I think that's probably enough. And make some darker spots as well as the lighter coloured ones. And try and keep them to this side and keep this top half quite light. I think just to finish off we need a bit more detail around the stem at the top here. You can see, or where the stem was should I say, you can see there where it's been. It's quite dark, and again I just want to get these a bit darker. So you could introduce more colours, you could get some browns in here and under here to make it darker and to sort of emulate the colours of the tangerine more, but I actually quite like the orange and the yellow with the purple. Makes it a bit different. And I'm just thinking now, I do feel it needs to be a bit more orangey in places, so I'm just going to get a bit of a thicker mix. We haven't actually used an orange, we've just used the Gamboge and it's come out very orangey, but the first Gamboge I bought in the Brusho wasn't as orange as this, and I'm just thinking that, you know, that they do seem to not come true every time you buy. When you replace your Brusho colours, they can be slightly different even though they're called the same colour. I suppose it depends on the amount of each pigment that you get in your particular pot, the way it's mixed, so it's not something you can rely on to be true to the colour that you had last time. So you could go on working on it for a while and just, you know, you need to be careful not to overwork it. You might want to just tidy up some of the edges, especially once it's dry. I mean, this is still very wet, but if you left it to dry, you could tidy up some of these edges as well. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, the ways we can use Brusho, so just using them as paint as you would do with your watercolours and then dropping some into that to give you that texture. I think it's worked okay. So there we go, that was the little tangerine. He's obviously not got all his purple in, but I think I quite like it like that. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know how you get on with your Brushos, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.